Hey, Planeswalkers, it's yours truly, Meta Master Mythras here with another weekly episode of Friday Night Meta, my friends. I am excited to dive into this week's changes for you. We're going to do a recap. We'll cover the best of one and the best of three. I got a special deck for you here today. And then additionally, we'll talk about some of the events that led to a couple of the impacts this week. So very excited about that. You can find all the timestamps down below in the description. Additionally, my friends, if you got questions or comments, let me know. The Discord server information is there. Other great ways to support the channel as well. So flip me a like if you enjoyed today's episode. And last but not least, we did our tier list this week. Absolutely check that out. Information's down below, along with the website where you guys can find everything. Now, last week, my friends, what we had going on in terms of the meta was a lot different here than what we're seeing actually in the snapshot today. We had newcomers, Boros Winata. We also had some Golgari decks, both pests and some other versions as well. Now, those versions were sub 50% win, and they were also very popular decks. So those are a couple of key things to call out that we saw some changes on, because it's pretty important to see how quickly decks enter and leave on the gameplay basis as well. So many of you like to win. That's why we do this. We're competitive. We'd like to know what's out there and be aware of a lot of the top decks, how to play them, play against them, or also find new ways to kind of snipe through the meta here. So that is kind of what happened last week. We didn't have a lot of events. We closed out Kaldheim. We moved quickly into Strixhaven, saw a lot of those changes, saw a lot of the influence, and it was pretty exciting nonetheless. So this week is much different. This week, as we can see in best of one here, mono white Lifegain reigning back at number one and holding things down in best of one makes a lot of sense when we look at the popularity. Again, it's a hard counter to mono red snow aggro, holds up well against Boros Winata, and you can see it being a high level percentage of the meta as well. So it doesn't actually have a weakness really until you hit the number 4 deck there, Sultai Ultimatum. And then when we look at the win rates as well, one of the big upticks here that we're beginning to see again is mono white aggro. So big one to keep an eye on. We have 4-color cycling, Boros Winata, mono red snow, dimmer rogues, mono black auras, and Sultai Ultimatum closing out the bottom there for the top 8. Now, totally different list, totally different picture than what we saw. Again, we're bronze and mythic. We'll drill in a little bit more, but it's important to see how things are going, how they're penetrating. Now, we're beginning to see mono red snow aggro fall off pretty hard. We're seeing Boros Winata kind of slow down. Mono white Lifegain steadily going up. Sultai Ultimatum steadily going up. Now, again, it works well against mono white, so that's a big piece. Dimmer rogues is starting to climb, also being impactful against Sultai Ultimatum, one of the reasons why we see the depression on the win rate there. Then additionally, we have our friend 4-color cycling, which has been doing very well as a best of one deck. And this is the Yor cycling deck, and you guys can check that out. I did the Yor to Boros. I was one of the first to call it that way, by the way. Sultai Control, so a little bit different version there, starting to kind of creep in. And then again, some of the Boros cycling stuff. So we see a couple of the older versions, mono black auras, mono white aggro starting to tick up in terms of that win rate, which again makes sense given what we've seen in the meta. So very, very interesting in terms of a snapshot for best of one. We're going to drill into some more of the competitive space, which is the platinum to mythic. Here again, really reflective of what we're seeing, except at the top end we have Boros Winata again, really kind of holding steady, and everything else kind of going sideways as well. So pretty interesting to see that. And we'll talk about that here in a little bit. And again, same with kind of the win rates, everything's kind of holding steady. So, that to me represents a lot of balance here. So it's pretty important to keep that in mind. I know many of you have commented recently on YouTube videos on a path forward. What should I be playing? Am I doing this wrong? Don't worry, it's not you. I know many of players in the Discord server that have had a rough week, myself included. You guys can check out my Twitch gameplay and see that as well. But the big one here is the reality is it's pretty flat. And there's not a lot of difference honestly, between the win rates. There's some, but not a ton. So that's important to see. And that was actually the percentage of the meta, same with the win rates. So those are all things to keep in mind in terms of what you're hitting when you're playing, kind of flip around in decks. And that's certainly something I've done. You guys can see that on Twitch real time as I was moving around decks that made sense for me in terms of my climb to Mythic. So very important there to keep that in mind as a competitive player, as what you're running into, and the importance of playing around those things, because that's what you want to do. Just like when you go to a tournament, you want to understand or try and project what you think everyone else is going to play what you think is going to help you get there. So pretty important, like I said, to understand those things, key callouts and key things to recognize this week. One other quick highlight here in terms of what we're seeing in the meta, again, at the top end, a lot of those other decks fell out. So we want to keep an eye on this, particularly the best of one. We're not seeing a ton of the learn mechanic now again. We got Boros Winata as really that one that stepped up from Strixhaven. So I'm hoping we see something new. I love seeing those things evolve over time, and otherwise it's pretty reflective of where we are with Kaldheim too, and many of you are starting to find that out as well. So all right, best of three, let's go ahead and take a look. We're going to start on the competitive side of things here. Again, mono white aggro doing pretty well, so we want to keep an eye on that. Percentage of the meta is pretty low. Mono red snow aggro still doing well. Dimmer rogues creeping up in the best of three. Let's keep an eye on that. We got Nigh Adventure still. Boros Winata starting to fall, so that's a big call out there and change. Is it Prismari's actually getting a little bit better on the win rate? And then when we look at popularity, again, Salty Ultimatum, you guys love this deck. I've had tons of people comment on it on the tier list, and I think I think it's bad, but the reality is the stats don't show it as the best deck. Also in best of three, yes, it ends up in a lot of tournaments. Those win rates are not always good, so we always like to talk about that because it's important. Now, does it get you there? Yes. Is it consistent deck? Yes. So those are all things to remember. Then we got Salty Ultimatum, Teamer Adventure, Dimmer Rogues, again, becoming that popular space. We got a 3 and 3 here, which is pretty consistent. So that's important to pay attention to. Then we got Mono Red Snow Aggro, Boros Winata, again, the lowest on the popularity, being the best deck. So that's key to understand. Now, again, as we look at the trends kind of going sideways, having a couple bumps, Dimmer Rogues being the real uptick, which is pretty important. So the depression of red makes sense as we see that. And again, is it Prismari sneaking back up? Teamer, Obosh, Nigh Adventures, and we'll talk about a couple of these here in a second when we go ahead and cover some of the events and things like that. So that is the competitive side. Let's go back and look at the broader meta, because it's always important. We see a few things move around here in terms of win rates, pretty steady, similar to the popularity. We got the flip on mono white aggro, and everything else kind of falling into place. And similar style here in terms of the movement, pretty reflective of the top end. Now, we like to do this because we see some of these other sneaker decks coming in once in a while here that can project later, and there's more players playing in this space than at the top end, so it's always important to take a look at what's out there. So that is the best of three overview, my friends. We've done the recap, we've done the best of one details, we've done the best of three details today, equipped you with that nice view in terms of what's going on. Now I want to give you one key deck for this week to help you on your way, in particular as we rush to rush hour here. So when I drop this, you guys got a couple hours to close out. I just closed out right before making this video on Twitch, and I ran mono white Lifegain. So that was the deck that I chose to run. I want to call this out here because it's pretty important. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. When we look at the popular version here, literally this guy is the exact same. This is still CGB's deck. I've had a lot of questions about Radiant Fountain. Radiant Fountain is stronger than Snow. Ideally, why is that happening? Because what happens is when you got Faceless Haven and Snowlands, you do get hurt by Redain once in a while, but the reality is Gaining the life early helps enable Speaker of Heavens faster, and additionally, the trade-off on Faceless isn't as good. Now, when you do begin to face a lot more of those Sultai decks, it's a consideration, but you want to be getting those flyers fast. Shadow's Verdict's going to wipe you anyway, so keep those things in mind. Honestly, if you want to be a little bit different, you could always split this. I wouldn't go to like 6 though. You got to be careful because you can really get hosed on your mana base. So all good things to keep in mind. When we do go look at the matchups here, we can go ahead and check out these win rates. So there's that Pest deck, there's that Witherbloom deck that we were talking about. The only ones it doesn't do real well against: Sultai Ultimatum, Dimmer Control, Mono Black Auras. So again, we ran a #1 deck on this. Keep an eye on this one. I think it'll still continue to do well. And then it's close on Dimmer Rogues. I did play a Wizards of the Coast employee. If you guys go check out my my Mono White Lifegain on Twitch, and they like rage quit or something. It was kind of weird. So, and then played another one and they quit right away. Just bizarre. And then I think I had fat fingers in my my Twitch session too soon, so I apologize, you guys. Now with that, Dimir Rogues, I still think isn't the best matchup, even though it says 51%. Good to see that. Makes me feel a little bit better, but I don't always feel that's the case. So with that, that is our deck of the day, Mono White Lifegain. You guys can check that down below. I'll have the deck list for you in the video that I produced a while back. Looking forward to doing an updated list for you. So we got some different versions for Strixhaven, but I did want to give you this one so that you're going to be on your healthy way to hit that Mythic spot this week, or be set up well as you move in and kind of do the burst or zoom in at the beginning to hit that top Mythic spot. So that's the deck we wanted to talk about today, Mono White Lifegain. Next, we're going to talk about 2 key events. Actually, one was pretty awesome, place in my heart and spot. We'll talk about that in a second. This will be the last time I do that. And then 2, a key event that happened over the weekend. So the first one, kind of doing that in reverse, was our SCG Tour Online 5K Strixhaven Championship. So pretty big tournament, lots of qualifiers, I think like 8 rounds. What happened here? Number 1, Dimmer Rogues, Literus. We saw that going up in the play there. Makes sense. Gruul Adventures. Now, we didn't see so much going on in the Gruul Adventures. I think this is a big one to keep an eye on. If you guys haven't already, go check out my Magda Gruul deck. That was a big one, number 1. I think that's going to continue to be a thing. We still got cycling. Like I said, Jeskai cycling. We got Sultai Ramp, Yorion, Naya Adventures. Here's a big one, Rakdos Sacrifice. I think this is going to be a key one to keep an eye on. Again, still, it's positioned well in that mid-range space right now. Teamer Adventures or Team Returns, and then again a bunch of Sultai decks, and then Jeskai cycling. We get into some of those aggro decks and continue down. So pretty interesting. The biggest thing here that I would say is it's pretty balanced at the top 8. Really only being 2 Sultai, and then we kind of start seeing some of the Sultai, but we see a lot of other groups. So that's a key indicator there to keep in mind. Again, helps understand maybe some of those rogues movements, as well as some of these other things going on in terms of what we saw. The other one I always like to look at is archetype breakdown. So percent of field, percent of decks. Again, Sultai Ramp Yorion or Sultai Ultimatum, 50%. 50%. So that's always a big one. But we see top finishers in the tournaments always. That's key to understand and keep an eye on. Mono Red Aggro not doing as well. Gruul Adventures, again, mid-range. He did a top 8 finish, but 45%. Teamer Adventures, 56. If you guys go and check out the collaboration video that I did with before, this was the deck that we both agreed that we would pick. Team Returns deck. I still think it's one of the best decks. Probably what I would also play in the meta. In best of 3. Then again, we got Mono White Aggro not aligning to what we're seeing on Arena. So again, difference between Arena, difference between tournaments, big difference. And then we have cycling. We got Rogues at 55%, which is very healthy. Teamer Adventures. And then we got Naya Adventures. So this is a big one, 60%. Boros Winata having a terrible showing. Rakdos Sacrifice, this is a key call here, 62% again. So wanted to give you guys this information, equip you with this because it's pretty important. The second event that I do want to talk through is this one, Standard Extra Life 2021 here, for a good cause. Our buddy Rumpty took it down with mono green aggro. You guys can check that video out. I did that this week, obviously in honor of Rumpty, and I happened to be featured, well, not featured, I was a part of the streamcast, so take that back, not featured, a part of the streamcast collaborative event on Charizard James's, where Rumpty came and spoke. We all talked together. It was a lot of fun. Awesome crew, great people. Love the streamers out there in the community, and I love the support. So looking forward to working with all of them again and having some fun. So then we got Gruul Adventures again. So we saw that top 8. We see it here. Again, keep an eye on the Magda list. It's going to be important. Now, then we have Sultai ramp decks. Jeff here, awesome job. Jeff is actually in our Discord server, was talking on trying to figure out what deck, open to the community that we have in there, 100+ strong, insane. So very excited about that. Congrats, Monster Jeff. One last time, it's the last time I'm going to say this, on your top 3 finish here for this event. So really, really cool. We get to see Boros Winata, we see Sultai Ramp on a red, a whole host of things in the space. This was the one that I really like, Simic Flash. You guys can't see it behind my picture, so let's move it there. Simic Flash. I loved it. I did take a look at this one. I haven't ran it yet, but something to keep an eye on, my friends. I liked it. As someone that likes top decks, right? So that is what we have. We talked about 2 key tournaments. We're going to come back here to our meta snapshot so that you guys have it. Again, we saw that Rise and Rogues, both best of 1 and best of 3, so I wanted to call that out. We don't see that Gruul aggro. Let's go to best of 3. Same thing here. Gruul aggro still not showing up, so let's keep an eye on that. I don't think it got bad. Similar with Rogues, so we want to watch it. With that said, to close everything out, my friends, we talked about what happened last week in terms of positioning of Strixhaven, what it did. Pumped a couple decks, Boros Winata, we had the Golgari Pass, Witherbloom. Now they're gone. Big change. Then we talked about the best of 1 atmosphere. We talked about the best of 3 landscape, and covered a key top deck, mono white Lifegain. Information's down below, guys, in the details as always for you. And then some cool events, very competitive and a charity event, and Rumpty's obviously very competitive. So I would consider the charity event pretty competitive, and all for good cause. So I certainly say check that out. I think it was for children's, so keep an eye on that as well. Very I wish I had more time to do that myself. Maybe one of these days we can run a charity event or something like that. Love to do that. Big about giving back to the community. Why I've spotlighted this thing so many times, but with that, Planeswalkers, as always, I hope you enjoyed Friday Night Meta this week. A lot of fun. Looking forward to all the things coming up. I know there's a lot more tournaments in the pipe. Looking forward to checking those out, checking out how you guys change the meta, influence the meta yourselves. All my spikes, all my Timmies. Love you guys. Appreciate your support. Please feel free to flip me a like if you enjoyed today's video. Other great ways to support the channel. Questions, comments, let me know. Discord information down below. A lot of the decks we talked about down below. Don't forget the tier list. Check it out. It's going to be one of your best friends. Lots of great decks in there too. So with that, Planeswalkers, you stay safe. Stay tuned because we got a lot of top decks, weekly meta, tier lists coming your way. And we'll see you again soon. Mythras out.